Because other than, I mean, like, there's so many opportunities where we're just so dismissive of
Yes.
somebody's true need, and we don't care, and we're just like,
Right, right. And it's a shame, really, that we're like that, you know. Someone suggested that friendships are just be fragrance free here, because a lot of people come and a certain odor, whether it's perfume or whatever, could bother them. So, and that's hard for me because I like perfume, right? So I'm like, come on, right? But you can't do the come on, because then you go somewhere that there's a refreshener that smells really strong and gives you a headache, and you're like, oh, I know how that feels, right? So I think it's all about empathy and understanding, and then when we empathize with somebody, then we say, okay, like, this is not a fake thing. That's the thing. Invisible disabilities many times is like, oh, it's a garbage in your head. Come on, it's all in your head. But that person is suffering, right? So again, we not necessarily will you be able to fix everyone's problems, but we can definitely try. That's the aim, to try, definitely. And I think we're going to work on being fragrance free, and I will not wear perfume, and that will be hard, but I will do it because, again, we all need to work for inclusion. So we're definitely going to get there. Was that recorded? Oh no, I really got to do it.
I just want to make a suggestion about that extra light. So when you talk about having other places in the room, sometimes it segregates somebody if you're looking for a place that provides more light. But there's the little light lights that you can hook onto the books that you can turn on or hook onto the desk that would create that they can still stay in the same situation but have more light focused in their area.
I like that. That's beautiful. That's a great idea. Thank you. Okay, so this is communication, right? So we have, again, these are fixes that are things that we could do. It's just about doing them. It's just about thinking, what can I do, and then doing them. So I think we just did this already, right? Yeah, we did this right. I think the hardest thing to break is the attitudinal barrier, which is the way people look, the way society looks at people with disabilities and interacts and thinks about them. Okay, so the problem is many times we define somebody by their disability or their diagnosis instead of defining them as being a person, number one, and being again an image of Hashem. That's something that's something that is a really hard barrier to break. What are our assumptions? So Norman Kump, who has a disability, he's a disability activist, and he says, unfortunately, too many people see me as 9/10 disability and 1/10 a person. And I think that we can all, we think of somebody, oh, they have this person has this disability, and actually, I gave you a paper over here, but it talks about this, our myths and the way we think about someone with a disability when they're people first. You can look at it soon. You don't have to look at it now, but that's definitely something to look at. Okay. I'm gonna play from here.
The best is never be able to walk well. You'll never be able to talk well or talk well. You'll never be able to get married or marry. You'll never be able to have kids. I got 2 kids. At every point when they said I'd never be able to, I almost take it like a personal challenge. The things they're telling me I cannot do are things that they would not tell another person. They would never run up to somebody who looks, quote, healthy, unquote, and say you cannot have kids, you cannot be married, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this. They would never do that. Matter of fact, it would be the opposite. It would be like, how come you're not doing this to the world? Good afternoon.
He's a rapper, by the way.
How y'all doing? All right, let's try this shit again. Good afternoon, good evening, how y'all doing? There you go. I know it's born with cerebral palsy. I've always been disabled, never required it. It's just been the natural state of my life. When I come into a situation, I don't know what people are reacting because I'm in a wheelchair or because I'm black. Because both are very visible. And you can really discern what I am when I roll into the room. So now I can get tiptoe and go, shh, keep this in the room. Now it doesn't happen like that. I told you, I mean, even when I walked in today, I mean, I'm pretty sure you guys won't happen to have, I mean, it's okay to have, certain reactions, but it's not okay to continue to have those reactions after you know somebody. It's that whole kind of concept of segregate somebody out, you are now segregating everybody. So we really have to be careful when we talk about social stereotypes about why do they exist, and why should they exist, and do they need to exist. As much as I do in advocacy, policy, public speaking, going to DC or speaking on Capitol Hill, when you talk like that and have a disability, people go, oh my God, that's such a strong positive self-image. And I'm like, well, what else am I supposed to have? Because if you can't see that in the context of just being a normal activity, then everything I do becomes super extraordinary. And it really is not.
So, thank you. Well, that was, again, many times we will judge somebody, again, right away by how they look and by their disability instead of all the things that they can accomplish. So, there is a beautiful story about a soldier who was in the Israeli army, and he was fighting in the Israeli army, a young soldier, his whole life ahead of him, and he was just, he was in the army, and he was strong, and he was so excited to change the world and make a lot of money and get places in life. And during the war, he lost both of his legs, and he was wheelchair bound. This was many years ago. And unfortunately, he was wheelchair bound, and he also came into this great depression, just feeling like, I'm young, I'm 18, I have my whole life ahead of me, but I have nothing. I don't have 2 feet, I can't do anything. And he became so depressed, and so just like, what is the point of living? What is the point of life if I have nothing? If I don't have my legs, what am I supposed to do? Where am I gonna go? So their unit, they were called the disabled unit, and they were traveling through the United States. They were going to Canada, United States, and they were visiting different places, and it was kind of their unit. It was like they were not the veterans because they were dumb, they were the disabled unit. And they were traveling to different places, and when they came to New York, they went to visit the Lubavitcher Rebbe, who they had a private audience with. And he was not interested, this soldier was not interested in seeing anything. He didn't want to see, at that point it was the Twin Towers, he didn't want to see the Twin Towers, he didn't want to see the Empire State Building, he didn't want to see some rabbi, he didn't want to see anything. He was not interested in anything in life, he just wanted to die. Because what's the point? So he comes in to the Lubavitcher Rebbe's shul, and he came with his group, and he's sitting there, and he's like, what's this guy going to tell me that's going to help me? Because right now, nothing is going to help me, nothing. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe told him words that he says, of course he says the story, he says, change his life forever. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe said that one of us have a purpose in this world. Nobody's here by mistake. Every single one of us have a soul that's sent down into this world for a reason. And what happens is that our soul needs to get that mission done. It needs to. But it's a soul, it's spiritual, it can't do anything. So we're put into a body, and our physical body is able to get things done, do the mission. Our hands, our mind, our legs, we have things to get done, and we use our body to get that mission done. A person whose body is not functioning the way that they want it to function, it's not because they are lower or less than. It's actually because their soul is so much stronger that it's able to conquer that mission without the need of the body. I mean, wow. The soldier heard those words and said, yeah, I could do anything. My soul is stronger. I could do it. And from those moments, from those words, he took those words, and when he left, he got into business school and became this world entrepreneur in real estate and owns a lot of property. And of course, he wants to get rich, right? He got very rich, and he gave a lot of charity to organizations that help people with disabilities. And he said, and in his words, he says that a soul is so much stronger than a body. And really, that's what it's all about, right? We said that our soul inside of us is an image of Hashem, and again, our body is an image of God itself, God himself, and God had a reason for him not to have legs. Maybe it was to inspire us with these stories. Maybe we don't know what the reason is, but God has a reason for everything. And this is really beautiful. One more thing that the Rebbe said was this unit should not be called the disabled unit. This was, again, in the 1970s. It was a long time ago in terms of, not that it was a long time ago, but it was a long time ago in the development of society being more inclusive. And the Rebbe said that this should not be called the disabled unit, it should be called the exceptional unit, because you are all exceptional. So this was, again, before all this PC terms came out. It's pretty cool. And so disability, and there's a reason that they're here, and they're here, while they are here, they have so much that they're doing, and their soul is so great. So let's talk about models of speech when we're talking about someone with a disability, and this is something that we can teach our students, we can teach our children, we can teach our friends. These are how we refer to someone with a disability. So there's person first language, we say person with a disability, okay? Or there's identity first language, disabled person. Which one do you think it is? First person, okay, very good, excellent. First person, which is actually interesting because now there's become a little bit of a movement for some people who are saying identity first, which is interesting. For example, the deaf community, they want to be considered deaf people, not people who are deaf. So, and then there are also some people who are autistic who started saying, I want to be called an autistic person. So again, this is a tricky one, and we're going to figure out how we should know what's the difference. So first of all, person first action. So we treat a person in a dignified way. They're a person first, right? We respect the wishes of the individual. Okay, so if you're standing next to someone with a disability and their father, right? Many times we'll make the mistake of looking at the father and saying, what does he want to eat for dinner? Or what does he want to do about the playground? Or what? Person first, right? We look at the person and we ask them, what do you want to do? What are your wishes? And all services should be available for every person with appropriate accommodations. I'll just give you an example. So we have, for Sukkot every year, there is a citywide Sukkot event. Everybody comes, it's really fun. It's a little overstimulating. So for our friends with special needs, we said, okay, we're gonna make a separate program because it's too overwhelming. There's people dancing, there's noise, there's stuff going on. So we made our own program and it was great. Everyone loved it. Super, right? Over, right? But there was something wrong. The problem was that, again, this is the classroom, here's the special ed division, right? This is everyone, the whole community's coming together here, but we're gonna be here. And it just felt wrong. It felt like, wait, we're not being inclusive at all. What are we doing? So we decided we have to figure out a way to make that, to make the environment so that our friends with special needs will feel welcome in such an environment. So how do we do that? So we were going back and forth and we decided to do this and it was really fun. We did a silent disco party, which was so there was a citywide program and then there was a room inside that was silent disco, which was the music was, you know what silent disco is? You know, you put the headphones on and you can control the volume and you control what type of sound it is. So we had two tracks, one was fun and exciting and one was super calm. I think most of the moms put on the super calm. That's how it is. All the moms were like, oh, zen for a few minutes, right? So, and it was, what happened was that, yes, it was within the community party, but there was a space for them because they did need a space, but it was within the space. It was within the community party, and so it was a space for them because they needed that. They needed the quietness, but again, they were at the same party. They were all in the same, they were experiencing the same thing, and yet they were able to control the volume of the sound, so it was easier for them. They enjoyed it. They were also part of the community. Yes?
I just want to say that then inspired a different type of inclusion because it was the inspiration for last year's Walk for Israel having a silent disco so that people who observe Sphira and don't listen to music at that time could still be there and celebrating, and people who wanted to listen to music could listen to music, and it was inspired by me seeing the Sukkot.
That's really nice, and I did hear about that, and it warmed my heart so much when I heard, wow, that's so thoughtful, it's so sensitive. Because most people, whether they're keeping Sphira or not, whatever, they'll come or they won't. The fact that you thought about that, that's beautiful.
But it's another type of inclusion. I mean, it's not a disability, but it's another way of including, people in the community.
Thank you. That's really beautiful. Thank you so much. Another example was that by the Seder, usually it's very long and it's draining and it's also like boring. So kids with special needs, adults with special needs, honestly, all of us, we're very excited. We're very excited. We had sensory cushions when we got bored to like kind of for stimulation, and we had a lot of fidgets on the table. We had noise canceling headphones for anybody if it got too overwhelming and noisy, and there was just a lot of games and activities, but it was all very small and specific and for that person. So it wasn't like all over, it wasn't overstimulating. It was really great. We had a good time. I think some of the rabbis also had too good of a time, I think, at the Seder. But it was very special because a lot of times parents tell me, I'm not coming to Seder. Like, I'm staying home. My kid's gonna go crazy. No, thank you. right? They're gonna go nuts, and then what happens is, again, there's that isolation. I'm not gonna come, I'm gonna stay home. And there's an isolation. I can't be part of the community because I'm home, because I can't come out. You know what happens when I come out? There's meltdowns, there's tantrums, right? That's what happens, and then I'm not part of anything. And we want everyone to feel a part of everything. So again, could we help every single person? We could definitely try. We could definitely try, and that's our goal. Help every single person feel included.
People with Down syndrome have special needs. Special needs? Really? It would be special if people with Down syndrome needed to eat dinosaur eggs. That would be special.
One dinosaur egg. Enjoy.
If we need to wear a giant suit of armor, that would be special. It would be special if we needed to be massaged by a cat. Needed to be woken up by celebrity.
Wakey, wakey, eggs and bacon. You may know me from Scrubs or Office Space. Darker Flicks, The Rock, Hotel, Wall Street. Funny story, I played Benson.
That would be special. But what we really need is education, jobs, and opportunities, friends, and some love. Just like anybody else. Are these needs special?
Wow.
Okay, so as we saw over here, yes, people have different disabilities, people have different needs that we all have, right? And the whole concept of not special needs, actually this video sparked a lot of controversy. I don't know if you've seen it on Facebook, or it did spark a lot of controversy of what are we saying? We're saying that someone that doesn't have special needs, but they do have special needs. So like, what is this? Is there a special need and is there not a special need? And really the whole concept is it's a human need, and we all have something that we're struggling with.
Like individual. Like
Exactly.
You know, like everybody has it's like something different or quirky or whatever. Like special, like
Right.
you said, makes it like. We need to
But
change
is
the
it a
wording.
cultural, but do we have to, like, my question is, do we have to change it? Because society, I feel like, makes special negative. But is it negative? I don't know that it is, but like, I feel like it's your perspective on, is it a positive attribute or a negative attribute? And
That's a very good question. Because the language changes so much, I don't think it's about the language. It's about our perception and our attitude. Because the language changes too
Right.
much. So you're gonna start Xing out every single word. So now people say like atypically developing, they say, differently able. There's so many different terms, but it's all the same. It's about our attitude, really. Right? I'm sorry, you were gonna say something.
All of a sudden this little spark came back. I was 8 when I came to this country, and it's interesting. I was going to a private Jewish school, and I was put into a special class. Because my English wasn't perfect, and my Hebrew wasn't either. I was put into a special class, and on the grade I earned, and this is a very well-known school, by the way, the grade that I earned, they gave me 1 grade lower, because I was in the special class.
Oh, yeah, they used to do that. That was so horrible. I
I
never
can't even begin
reconciled
to tell
that.
you how horrible it was, yeah.
I'm
And
sorry.
it was the only choice in the city. I think it's not about like retardation or whatever, it's, you have an accent, you're different. You're short, you're fat, you're bald,
Whatever
whatever.
it is, yeah.
It's not about special needs only.
Right, it's not. And there's mental health, right? I mean, that's like a whole other category. I mean, there's everything, any type of different, anyone that's different, and really know what's normal, right? We all say what is normal. if everyone's so different, then what is really normal? So it's really about creating an inclusive place for everybody, that there should never be somebody with an accent that has to go into the special class. If anything, a respect to somebody who knows now 2 languages, you know, right? Bilingual people are very smart, they know 2. If anything, you should have been respected and not segregated. So,
I was gonna say, I work with mostly a population that's in their 70s or 80s, and when I brought in, they need some actual extra assistance. So many of these people have a wheelchair, have a walker, and just doing daily activities like going into a grocery store, going into a department store, Marshalls, whatever place you wanna say, trying to get through the aisles with a walker or a wheelchair, very, very difficult. I don't think we would ever say that these are special needs people. These are just an aging population. And so already, these people that were independent and functional and now need some extra assistance, it becomes very difficult for them, even when they have a caregiver, to participate because of barriers that are thrown up for everyday, for a normal population in a different way.
right,
So,
right, that's very true, and that's their special need. They have a special need, and really special needs can come up anytime, right? Anyone can all of a sudden have a disability. I mean, again, like you said, it's not really a disability, it's age, but it's part of it. So what do you do when you see somebody? First of all, how do we know how to identify the person? How do we know what they want? Okay, so Milwaukee loves acronyms, right? Right? We all are like crazy about acronyms. Well, this is an acronym that I think is very easy to remember. ATP, ask the person. Okay, very simple. It's super simple. Ask the person. Remember, the person first, right? The person is a human. What do you want? How would you like me to call you? You know, many times, again, it has to be a conversation. And it has to be, if you say it in a respectful way, with love in your heart, because again, this person is an image of God, and we're talking to an image of God, and we want to respect that person. So we say with respectful and with kindness in our heart, how would you like me to address you? How would you like me to help you? Ron, you give a great example. Someone comes into a grocery store, okay, with a wheelchair. Well, how can I help you? Would you like me to help you, or would you not like me to help you? You know, some people don't want to be helped. Don't help me. Just leave me alone. You ever have a tantrum with a child in the parking lot? I mean, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, and then everyone comes and says, can I help? And then you get even more overwhelmed, right? And then people mean well, but again, we appreciate when they actually ask. I actually had this one time, right when we moved here, I had a child who had a tantrum in the parking lot, and someone came and tried to help and picked up my child and started walking with my child. Of course, I dropped the bags, grabbed my child, right? And then this person was just trying to help, right? And of course, we say, ATP, ask the person, right? Ask how it can help. That's just a simple example with a child having a tantrum. But what about any person with a disability? How can I help you? You know, if we know somebody in our community that, let's say lights, you asked about lights bother them, ask them, will they feel segregated if there's lamps? If they do, then that a book lamp is very smart. Maybe they'll feel segregated with a book lamp, right? Maybe they need to be seated by the window where they get the sunlight. We have to figure out how we can help each person. Again, it's about thinking and processing. What can I do? How can I be inclusive? And a lot of times it's including the person in the decision, including the person who has a disability. How can I help you feel more included? Okay, so how do we educate our children and our students? So first of all, we start with our heart. The number one thing, I think if you come out of anything with this from today, the one thing I hope that you come out with is empathy. And it's very hard to know what someone's going through when we don't go through it ourselves, right? But I'm sure some of you had some point of time in your life that you, let's say, had surgery or had a baby or felt very, very sick, too sick to take care of yourself. And that feeling of just not being able to do what you want to do. And the frustration that it feels like when you want to say words and they don't come out the way you want them. Or you want to go somewhere but you can't get there. And you feel trapped, that your hands are tied behind your back, and you can't do anything. I don't know if you know that frustration. I know I've had that feeling from time to time in life. I'm sure all of us have that feeling. And understanding that a person, just because they have a physical disability or a cognitive disability, they have so much that they want to give to the world, and sometimes it can be very frustrating because everything is so much harder for them to do. Like we spoke about that sensory processing, right? So if a child is trying to get dressed in the morning, and everyone else gets address in 2 minutes, but this child's having such a hard time. And it's like, oh, come on, just get with it, right? But it's so much harder for that child. If you're in school and everyone's writing, right? Everyone's writing, everyone's concentrating. One kid keeps dropping the pen, keeps getting distracted, and it's frustrating. Okay, just like, come on, get on with the program. But knowing and feeling that empathy, this poor child is hearing distractions from everywhere. The light is too strong for him. For whatever it is that's causing, even if you don't know what the cause is, just that first step is that empathy. And we can teach that to our children as well. Because our children, even though they are maybe, our children and our students, I'm talking about the children who are neurotypical. If you have a student that's neurotypical, how do you describe that to that child? I'm sure maybe they do not know exactly what the person is experiencing, but they can understand the feeling that the person must have. Because we've all been sad, we've all been frustrated, we've all been confused. So we can definitely talk about that feeling to our students who are neurotypical. And how did that make you feel when you were so frustrated? Imagine always being frustrated. Imagine always being confused. Imagine always feeling trapped. That feeling is so awful. How can we include that person? So again, start with your heart. Number one is empathy, understanding how the person is, and again we said about respecting and loving another person. Okay, so now as an educator, whether you're in a Sunday school or day school, wherever you are, you see something concerning in your student. You see something that you feel like, let's say, again, that child is not concentrating, who's dropping pens and everything like that, right? So number one, you see something concerning. I can't tell you how many times the heart is blocking, but document. That's the most important rule. First is empathy. After that, document for yourselves. You will find a pattern. Usually you find patterns in documentation. Sometimes you don't, and then of course, you have to go outsource, right? Maybe speaking to a therapist or speaking to a doctor, but number one as an educator, and the doctor will ask you, did you document? Do you know when this happened? Do you know why this happened? Sometimes it's, he didn't eat breakfast and his sugar level is low, or it's almost lunchtime and his sugar level is low, or sugar level is high because it's just after lunchtime, right? So sometimes you say, oh, look, there's a pattern every single day at this time. Or this month has been crazy, but other months have been fine. Maybe something's going on at home. And this, I know that you all know this, but the concept of documenting is so hard for all of us because it's hard. At the end of the day, we're exhausted and we have other things to do. But writing things down can really help. The step by step can really, really help. Finding a pattern. Once you find the pattern, it's much easier to create an environment for growth. To create a system for success is much easier when we understand what the child is going through. So this is a little bit overwhelming, actually. So as a special educator, I would say this is a terrible slide, and I'm very sorry. But sensory strategies are very important. You can look at your booklet that you have over here. There's a booklet that you have. It says sensory-friendly ways to transform your classroom. The reason why it's hard to tell you everything to do is because every single child is different, and every single child has different sensory processing disorders, sensory dysfunction. Everybody has something else. So first of all, analyze your classroom and analyze the students in your classroom, okay? And refer to the classroom sensory strategies. You can look at that. Now, when you document, you'll figure out. You say, you know what? I noticed that physically, there's, she has a lot of sensory. She has definitely her physical body, things that she touches. She's always going like this. She's always moving. There's a lot of movement going on. So there must be something in her touch input. So then we would look at different ways of how we can help that student calm her senses. Okay, so for example, I'm sure many of you have seen this sensory brush. So for example, something like this. Now again, this is more of an OT thing, right? But to have your classroom set up in a way that you can help your students, that you can help them achieve success is amazing. Sometimes they just need that, a little, this is like, this calms the senses. There's a pattern that you would do it with if the child needs to do it. I think protocol is that a teacher can't do it anymore because we don't do anything anymore. We don't touch children anymore at all. So, anyway, so there's a lot of different ways of how we can help a child when they're feeling overstimulated. So creating a system for success is very, very important. Preemptively, okay? Don't wait for the child to have a meltdown. Figure out a system that you could put in place for them. Maybe they need sensory breaks. Maybe they need some sort of exercise every, 15 minutes. There's always something. Now I know a lot of your special educators, so I know that you do this, I'm sure, with your students. But creating a system for you. So if you think you have a Sunday school class, you have, I don't know, let's say 10 children, right? There's a few of them that are constantly, there's stuff going on, right, for them. So if we're talking about teaching an inclusive environment and creating our classrooms to be sensory friendly, right, and inclusive, so it's about every single one of the 5 senses. So you can really look at your classroom and make sure that every part of your classroom is attracting another part of your senses, right? So there's touch, and there's audio, and there's olfactory, and there's vision, and you're making sure that there's something that attracts, because every student is different, every student learns differently, right? And every student appeals, different senses appeal to them. So if you look at your classroom setup, and again, this could really help you, this booklet can really help you, look around your classroom and try to make sure that it's sensory friendly and appealing to all of the 5 senses. And I'll let you look at that booklet. Definitely look at it. It's wonderful ideas for you. If you have an assistant in your classroom, you can discuss it with your assistant in advance. This is what I want to give you, the strategies that I want to do. I want to tell you, when there's a system in place, isn't it great when there's a system in place? It's the most beautiful thing. And again, including your child, including your student in the decision can also be really wonderful. So sitting down with the student and saying, let's do this. This is what we're going to do. Every 15 minutes, we're going to do a sensory break. What would you like to do for sensory breaks? Write down a list of things that this child wants to do. Because I'm telling you, when a child's involved in the decision and you're creating a strategy, it will be wonderful. It will be a much more inclusive classroom. Yes?
Can I just add that often you might see that this will help children that don't necessarily have a label, a label or disability, because I think especially, I know Wisconsin, they have to fall in a very specific category, and a lot of doctors don't necessarily buy into the sensory category. So in the classroom, I think you can be helping these kids, even if you're like, well, they didn't qualify for, whatever, special education, but they still could very well have sensory needs.
Thank you. That's a very good point. Most of us have something, right? But a lot of times we're not diagnosed. Or even if, especially if some of you are Sunday school teachers, or, oh God, I know, but the Sunday school teachers, some parents do not, unfortunately, some parents won't tell the teachers or the schools that their child has a disability. And many times, unfortunately, parents won't medicate their children, or unfortunately or fortunately, for whatever reason, they won't medicate their children over the weekend. Right. Because they feel like, I'm medicating him during the week, I prefer not to medicate over the weekend. So what happens on Sunday morning, you get a child with a lot of spirit and a lot of spunk, and you gotta figure it out, right? And it's all good. So creating a sensory environment and creating a system for success will be so wonderful. Make a little sensory room in your classroom. Make it, because guess what? Even a child has no sensory issues, which again, we all have something, can benefit. Like you said, every single child can benefit. Why not, right? If you think about it, why not? And I used to tell this to parents when I was working one-on-one with them. A lot of times parents would say, well, I don't know if he needs it. I would always say, why not? Give them that extra attention. Give them that extra love. There's no reason not to, Again, why not? Let's help our children to all the way through success. Okay, so is a diagnosis a hindrance or a superpower? This is really interesting, because again, a lot of people, like I said, a lot of people want to say, no, I'm an autistic person, or they'll say it straight up, I am Down syndrome, because they're owning it. They're saying, this is who I am. So it's actually really interesting. JNF, and you told me about JNF, right? So JNF was really cool. They brought down a speaker from Israel who spoke about special in uniform, and Ron, I think you were there at that presentation, and it was so cool because this I don't know what his position. Do you know what his position was? He was a colonel. He was a colonel in a special and uniform unit in Israel. So in America, people with disabilities, many of them who are not working, just get disability checks from the government, and again, they're home, they're isolated. It's not a good thing. In Israel, what Israel is doing is really working towards is taking our wonderful soldiers, who every person, once they graduate and become 18, they go in the Israeli army. So people with disabilities should also go in the army. And what happens? They go in the army and they're in a special unit. So he was talking about a special unit, and he was saying how his soldiers who are, they take care of, they watch the aerial cameras, and there's another one that goes through inventory. And some of them are, they're all in different places. They're checking the machinery, making sure everything's good. And there's a huge elephant in the room. Okay, everyone is thinking the same thing, but no one's saying it. And finally, one person said, okay, I'm sorry, I have to say this. safety of Israel is in your hands. And you have people with severe disabilities who are there, who are in the army with the safety of Israel in their hands. Are you crazy? So really everyone was kind of thinking like, oh, is that safe? Is that okay? I mean, what if they check the equipment and it's not good? Like, and they don't know. Like how could we, are we sure that this is a good thing? I think everyone was thinking that. But when this person said it, of course it was dead silence, right? And the colonel, yes? The colonel said, let me tell you a story. He said, this happened a year ago or whatever. There was 2 soldiers in the special unit. Both of them have autism, and they are very hyper-focused, so they were very, like, channel vision. And their job was to look at aerial cameras in the surrounding areas of Israel. And their job was to see if there's any changes. If there's any changes, we get alerts, maybe something's up. So their job was literally looking at aerial cameras. I don't know if you've ever seen aerial view, but it all looks the same, right? You ever go on top of an airplane and you're like, where am I? And you look outside the window, everything looks exactly the same. So this is them looking for hours and hours and hours and hours at the same, I mean, it's moving, the camera's moving. They're going to Jordan, they're going to Libya, they're going to Egypt, they're going around. But they're basically looking at the same thing for hours. Now, if it was me, I don't know if it would be you, but I think a typical person after a while would kind of get tired. Like, same thing, I just close my eyes, why not? No one will know. I can't like look at this anymore, right? But these soldiers were so focused on what they were doing, they were looking at the cameras. And one of them alerted his authority, he alerted him, he said, you know, a few hours ago we saw this picture, and it was just desert, and now we see 2 little white specks. And it could be it's nothing, but I noticed it. So of course, they went to the heads, and they went to the next heads, and they spoke about it, and they sent foot soldiers to that area to see what was going on. It was right near Israel. When they went there, they found 2 huge tents, and there were 2 huge missiles underneath, pointed at Israel. And these two soldiers in special uniform, in the special in uniform unit, they saved. Talk about your safety of Israel's in their hand. They saved. I mean, who knows what would have happened had those missiles gone off, right? Who knows what would have happened? And these 2 soldiers noticed it. I mean, to see those 2 little specks and to let their commanding officer know, it's amazing. So everyone in the room obviously got schooled, you know? Everyone was just like, wow. And the truth is it a hindrance or is it a superpower? Well, guess what? These 2 soldiers who had autism, who were hyper-focused, this was a superpower. They saw that. I don't know that anyone else would have. It's really all about our perspective. We focus on the ability and not the disability. I have an activity to do, but I don't know that we'll have so much time. So I'm gonna move on. What do you think? You want time? I'm gonna move on, and if we have time at the end, we'll do it. All right? Because I don't know for sure. All right. So now going back to talking about God's image, creating a world, our job is to, okay, Hashem created the world, right? God created the world. He had a reason to create the world, but he created us. We are in God's image, so we have a job to do. Our job is to make the world a loving and beautiful place, a place with unity that God can feel comfortable in this world as well. It's like his home. And really that's our job, to create an inclusive world. So you know, the word inclusion is a new word. It's pretty new. I mean, it's like, did you guys hear it when you were kids? I don't think I heard it when I was a kid, right? But the concept has been around forever. Okay, since the beginning of time, right? It's been around forever. And it's been around in our Torah, because again, the most important thing in the world is to be a haftal l'reacha kamocha, love your fellow as yourself. Because guess what? If you're an image of God and I'm an image of God, then really, you and I are the same. You and I are exactly the same. So when I respect you, I'm respecting myself. When I respect myself, I'm respecting you. So that whole concept is, and again, we're both respecting God. Our purpose is to make the world a better place. It doesn't matter what our candle looks like. It doesn't matter what our light looks like. Our purpose is to spread light into the world. So every one of us have a power. One act could be the tipping point that turns society into an inclusive one. And the power of a single positive action should not be underestimated. Every single one of us have that power. And this is something to teach our students as well. Every single one of us have that power. It can be one little thing, one tiny little thing that can really make a difference. So I think we will have time for the activity, so I won't continue. But our job really is right now is to make the world, make our students grow up. Because you know, a lot of times you say like, what type of world are we living in? What are we bringing our children scary, but guess what? Our children are our future. You are the key, all of you, that you're giving, you're imparting to your children the future. When I was in school, there was a kid in my class with special needs, and I was never taught anything. I would walk around with the girl, I would try to be nice to her, and then she would get too clingy, so I would be like, what am I supposed to do? And then I would back away, and then I'd get back. And I remember just not knowing. Nobody told me, nobody taught me. Had I known, or had my class known, or had kids, I bet we would have all been much more loving and much more caring. But we didn't know. And really, that's really the point of all of you, all of us as educators, that we are educating the future generation. We're telling our students, we're saying, this is what we should be doing. This is how we should be interacting. We should be loving and respecting each other. And again, if we could explain it and show it, person first, ask the person, respect the person, get rid of all those barriers, right? We are really creating a system for success. We really are. Could you say?
Can I share something?
Sure.
I guess I'm thinking about special needs like people who are short and people with accents and people who have a different style or they come from a different country or whatever. I think it's just really important to just respect, the idea of LOMED. Just like understand that we're all created by the same God and
Hey, you want to translate that for everybody else?
know who you're standing in front of. You're standing in front of the one who created you and the other person. And the idea is, I think that, like, I don't know what you like, so I have to be really careful, like, what I say, because maybe I might insult you. So before we get to be friends, I have to gently, and I think we have to be that way. There's this beautiful, beautiful story that I've shared oftentimes in class with my children because I want them to understand how important it is to be careful and thoughtful to each other. And I don't know if the story is true, but I read it someplace and it's just beautiful. There was a classroom and there was a child who needed to go to the bathroom and he tried to raise his hand, but the teacher kept talking because what she had to say was very important. And, a child should not be interrupting. And this one other child noticed, and pretty soon the child peed in their pants. And it was like a second, third grader, I don't remember exactly, but the water was trickling and he started to have tears in his eyes. And this girl got up and went to the front of the class where the teacher had this fishbowl. It's like such an amazing story. And the child picked up the fishbowl and took the fishbowl and started to walk towards the boy. And he tripped on purpose, but he tripped. And the fishbowl flew, and the fish flew, and the water went all over the boy. And so the boy got to go to the bathroom to clean himself up. And I always share this story because we all have to protect each other from the pain. And when we do that, we're heroes. And one day we're gonna need a hero. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really, really beautiful. Thank you. It's very, very special. So all of us have that power to impart to our students, and it's amazing what we have and the gifts that we have to give to others. Something that, just so that you know, I do an inclusion workshop for kids. Like I go to different schools and I do kind of kids experiment and experience what it feels like to have a disability. And we talk about that and inclusion. So if any of you would be interested, I'm happy to do it. We do it for free. I'm happy to do it for your classrooms or for your schools if any of you want. It's interesting and interactive, and it's also teaching that exact message of how we're responsible for each other and we all need to help each other. We're all part of the same community and we all need to help each other. So thank you, that's a beautiful story. Wow, that's really special. I'm going to conclude now and then we'll start with our activity. But different things that we do at Friendship Circle is really all about promoting inclusion in our environment. Again, there's a lot of kids that have disabilities. The hardest struggle that we found is for them is to have friends, real friends that just hang out with them and want to enjoy their company. So we do something called Friends at Home, that we have teen volunteers. They go to a child with any varying abilities home, and they spend time together, and it's really great for the child who enjoys that socialization and gets to have really cool friends. And at the same time, what's even more beautiful is that the teens get that feeling of being able to help others, and that we're all part of one. Exactly, it's really beautiful. There was a family there was a child that I heard had a disability, and he had no friends, and I heard, he really could use your help. But I heard this from an educator, but not from the family. So she told the family, is it okay if this person calls you? And she said yes, and of course I called, but I didn't get an answer. Nobody answered. Called a little bit more, a little bit later. I tried very often to call. I tried not to harass, but I did try to call. Anyway, after a while, she was just not answering. She was very busy. She had a lot going on. She was dealing with her son. Anyway, she just wasn't answering. And one day, her son came home from school, and he had autism, but he also looked a little different. He had some physical disabilities that you could see, and so kids started making fun of him and bullying him, and they didn't invite him to a birthday party that the entire class was invited to because of the way he looked and the way he acted. Also, he was probably annoying to them because he was trying to be friends with them and didn't know how, right? So they were just annoying. They were like, we're not inviting you. So he came home crying, and he's 9 years old and absolutely in tears, runs to his room, tells his mother, why am I even here? Why am I even alive? What is the point of anything? I have no friends, no one loves me. And the mother is just banging on the door saying, no, I love you. And of course, everyone knows, right? Who needs the mother to love them? So we need friends. And so the boy's crying and everyone's crying. And that happened to be another time that I called, right? It just worked out that I called at that time. Anyway, she answers the phone all flustered. And I told her about the program that we have, and we have teens that come to your home and they'll be friends with your child. And she's like, are you guys sending me friends to my house? Now? For free? I said, yeah, this is a program that we do. And she's like, oh my gosh. And so she explained the situation. She's like, I don't know what to do. I'm at my wit's end. And so okay, whoa, right? This is an emergency. Anyway, so hung up, called different people. We got 2 wonderful teenage boys to start going to their home every week. They started going to his house and visiting him, playing with him, just having a good time with him. And this boy, his entire demeanor changed. He went from this kid who nobody liked, was probably annoying because, again, he didn't have those social skills. He wasn't ever happy. He came to this person who was he had friends. He had these cool kids from Nicolay come to his house every week. And that's what I did this Sunday. What did you do this Sunday? Because I just had a great time. And he literally went from this boy who had just fallen apart to this confident, happy person. And of course, we all like happy, confident people, right? So suddenly he started making friends in school and becoming popular. He recently told me he has a girlfriend. He's 10, he's 11. Whatever, but that is just, that was a huge transformation. And so something like that was, of course, wow. And we saw the power of friendship. This is just from the power of friendship. But one step further, and this was something that's, again, about our society, was that one of the teenage boys that visited him, understood, started realizing, okay, different people have different disabilities and everyone is something else, and he started being a little bit more weird. Now that he was with a child with a disability, he started being more weird of kids in his own class who were going through a hard time. And there was one kid that he noticed was going through, having a bad day, and he was nice to him, and he was just being nice to him, just being normal, nice, whatever. 6 months later, this friend who looked like he was having a bad day, right? His father told the volunteer's father, you don't know what your son did. Your son saved my son's life. Because that day that he was having a bad day, he was planning on ending his life. And because your son was so sweet and warm to him, my son decided to keep living. And he didn't tell us anything. He had a whole plan. He was going to overdose. And he told us this 6 months later. And he told us that it was because of this boy that he decided not to do that, not to end his life. To hear something like that, it's just, again, it's the power of friendship, it's the power of inclusion, and we have that power because we can create a society like that every person is aware and thinking about the other person. It's amazing, really. So anyway, so one of our programs that we have is Friends at Home, and again, if you know anybody that can benefit from the program, let us know. If you know any teens who would want to be part of it, of course, let us know. We have also something called the Inclusion Club, which is kids with special needs and kids who are neurotypical. They come together, they do activities together. The idea is to get rid of the stigma. Because again, a lot of kids have that fear, oh my gosh, someone has a disability, I'm afraid, I don't want to be around them, they're strange, they're weird, they're going to hurt me, right? It's always that fear. So when we create these opportunities for kids to be together, they see like you're just like me and you. You just want love and friendship and smiles like everybody else, right? Like that video of the Down syndrome, you know, that was so cute. Down Syndrome Association made of how we all just want the same things. And then we have the French Bakery and Cafe, which is here, and our bakery is still under construction, but as soon, it's going to be done within a month, and then our menu will be much bigger, and it's very exciting. So that's where you all are here. And so it's really exciting, but I think the most important part is the fact that we have a community, like all of you, that are so warm and excited, and you want to make the world a better place. You know, there's some places that, I mean, I've lived in other areas, I'm sure you have also, that like people don't really care. And I feel like Milwaukee, people care. Do you find that? Yep. You see, like people just, they want it, there's a want to make a difference. So we really appreciate that from all of you. We have 20 minutes left.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you for 1 minute. I want to do the activity, but hold on. First of all, I wanted to say, first of all, it's been amazing. Not done yet. For those of you taking this for credit, I will tomorrow email you an assignment and evaluation. So I just want to remind you of that. Rachel, before you go to the activity, can we see if there are questions?
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
Okay, because I want to make sure I have a chance for
absolutely, and then we don't have, it's like optional. Okay, fine. So if anybody has any questions, I'd love to hear. Yes.
I guess I have a question. When we're looking as teachers, I'm just putting it out there, to meet the needs of these kids and do all these really useful and wonderful things, is there like a line where you don't also enable a child? Do you know what I mean? That in a way that they become too dependent on something, I don't know, or do you think you just do that because we don't really know, you know, what the need is, and therefore we certainly want to accommodate everyone.
That's
but
a very good question.
Is there a point that you're accommodating too much more than the child maybe might need? I don't know.
That's a very good question. So we have that a lot with our bakery. So we have bakers who enjoy doing whatever they want to do, right? And it's very hard for them to break out of their habits. And it's very hard for a student as well. If you have a student that is doing something, it's very hard for them to change, especially if you see them once a week. If you see them during the whole week, it's much easier, of course, because you already have a system with them. The most important thing, and again, with your student, is to create goals with them. And your goal is that they should not be acting a certain way and getting away with it. Okay, that's really the goal. Many times they're struggling with something because it's a sensory issue or whatever, but many times it's a sensory that turns into behavioral, right? So I actually had a student, I had a student that was kind of like spinning around like this all the time, by circle time, and like, you know, kind of like this, whatever, all the time, right? And so, but all the time. So, of course, we said, there must be something going on. So, of course, I told the parents, check her ears, right? Maybe she has, anyway, and she wasn't listening ever. Never listened. And it was really frustrating when a child is like, you're looking at them, you're talking to them, and they're not listening, right? It's like, come on, yeah? So anyway, so she got some tests, and she had so much fluid in her ear that she was 90% deaf. I mean, that's like